everybody. This is Liz, and today I have somebody special that I want you to meet and hear their story and how they came to Augusta. And I will let him introduce himself and say where he's from, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm Greg Stites. I'm from Ozark, Missouri, which is in the southwest corner of Missouri near Springfield. And just a little bit about me, I have a wife of almost 15 years, it'll be 15 years in August, and we have two boys who are 9 and 6.
So they're at the ages where they still love you.
Most of the time. The 9-year-old, he can have some his moments, where he doesn't. But yeah, for the most part.
Yeah, I remember when my son was 14 and I thought he'll never change. Like he's so affectionate and everything.
Yeah.
And then it was like switch flips and they become teenagers.
Yeah, that's funny. I'm excited for that moment. So it'll be fun.
Yes. But then they come around later and you become their best friend again. So it's
that's
pretty
awesome.
cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about where you came from, your family, and your upbringing.
Yeah, so I grew up kind of in a small town, Missouri. It's called Farmington, Missouri. I graduated high school in 2004. I have my parents. We live with them, and then I have 3 sisters. 2 sisters who were pretty much 11 and 13 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't really grow up with them quite as much. And then I have a little sister who's like 3 years younger. So it's almost kind of like 2 separate families,
Right.
In a way. But yeah, I went to school. I wasn't really terribly interested in school. I find it really boring. So I just did like enough to get through, high school and stuff. And I was in band, ran track. Those are the kind of things I did. We grew up in church, so went to a lot of church activities growing up. And then after that, I went to 2 years of community college locally where I grew up near Farmington. And then I moved from Farmington to Springfield in 2006 to go to college. And I'm like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't have a lot of direction with that. So I ended up actually joining the Marine Corps.
Nice.
Yeah, so it was like something that I had kind of wanted to do for a long time. Like my dad was in the military. I grew up growing up having thoughts of like, just that was, to me, it was like such a cool idea. But of course, at that time, there was a little bit different because, we were right in the middle of Iraq and Afghanistan.
Right.
So, so I kind of knew what I was getting myself into. But yeah, so from there, I was actually enlisted in the reserves. So I served out of Springfield with the reserve unit. Met my wife in 2007, and then
Was she in the military also?
No, she was not. We actually met. We had the Marine Corps has every year they do their birthday ball. Marine Corps birthday is November 10th, and so around November 10th, we always have a celebration in the ball, and it's a big deal. Well, that year, 2007. I went because I had to go, and but I didn't have any date at that time. I wasn't seeing anybody. And then afterwards, a bunch of the guys, we all went out to this local bar, brew pub actually, and we were just hanging out. And my wife actually came up to me and started talking to me, and that's how we met, ironically. But yeah, it was cool. So we just started talking, shared our phone numbers, and then from there, I guess you say the rest is history. So
yes, that's awesome. So how long were you in the Marine Corps, or are you still?
I was in for 6 years. So from 2007 is when I joined, January of 2007 to January of 2013. So.
And was there anything that really stood out from that for you, or you feel like benefited you today?
I think it's just one of those things of like the biggest thing is you're walking into a difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
Something's going to challenge you because obviously I've never done it. I knew it was going to be hard. I knew there's going to be things that were not going to be easy, but so to walk into that and to be able to accomplish that goal, to be able to, have served successfully, to make it to, in 6 years, I made it to E5. I was recognized for some various hard work that I did. So just knowing that, like, hey, like if I can do this, I can probably do pretty much whatever I want to do, right? Just knowing that, having that challenge put in front of me. So,
did they give you any opportunities going out of the military?
It was a little different being in the reserves because I was obviously not full-time active duty service, other than when we were deployed. So I was still like working through that. So I think it was a little different for me in that regard.
Yep,
But I think it did provide opportunities, just that, like, having that on my resume, I
for
think
sure.
it gets people's attention for sure. You
Yeah.
can't deny that. People typically are interested in hiring veterans, which is awesome. I think they should, because most of the time, about 99% of veterans are awesome,
Yeah.
and are great to have as employees. But yeah, I think that's probably the best thing that it has done as far as
Has it
after.
helped you? Has it helped you with discipline or things now that you've noticed in your life, or the way you structure your day or your time?
Um, I think yes and no. Like I've never been like the greatest at like self discipline and motivation. So like I think it did help me, like, in a way, like ignite the reasoning. Like, hey, it helped me see the importance of that, because obviously if I didn't have it at all, like, it was I would not have been successful.
Yeah.
I think the hard part about it was those, like, when then you don't have to do it anymore. It's like, okay,
Yes.
nobody's there to force me. So like, oh, so like I have to come up with that internally. And I still struggle with that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But because it's just not natural.
Yes.
But it definitely has given me a framework for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we have not known each other for long. So, first of
Right.
all, did you own a lawn care business? Were you into lawn care? How did you get into lawn care itself?
Yeah. So for me, actually, I towards the end of high school and into college, like I was telling you, I actually did lawn care then, and I enjoyed it. But it was never anything that I thought, oh, this is something I want to do for the rest of my life. I don't know. I just didn't think that that was a path that I should or could pursue and make it. And even as the idea of owning my own business was never really something that I thought about at a young age. But just going through the years of working for other people, like, I kind of just developed a desire to own my own business. A lot of it stemmed from reading books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, and kind of really opening my eyes to the idea that, in that book they have the quadrant, the cash flow quadrant, and
Right.
you've always been on that E quadrant, right, as an employee. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, if I really want to make uh, a wealth, and not just in money, but just in life in general, that way I can, you know, buy back my time. That's the biggest thing for me, is like, I wanted the ability to buy my time, so that way
Right.
I'm not always having to clock in and out, and be just so stuck to a schedule for the rest of my life. And that's owning a business would give me that opportunity, right? And so that's kind of why I decided to pursue owning my own business. And I kind of went back to lawn care, because I'm like, well, I've done it before, and I thought it would be just an entry point of something that I knew that I could do, right? That I knew that if I started it, like, I would at least have a base level of skill set that just get me started, and then the rest I could just kind of figure out as I went along, so to speak, and just
Yeah.
make it.
When you were in the reserves, were you a little bit worried or a little bit frustrated, wondering what you were going to do when you got out? Or did you think, oh, maybe I'll do something with lawn care?
No, so that was, yeah. So I got out in 2013, and this is my first year owning a business. So it's been a few years since I got out.
Okay.
So there's been a pretty significant time gap in there. Really, I guess it's been 10 years since I got out of the military till now. But yeah, I was working primarily in the, like, low voltage industry. So I enjoyed that work. Actually, it was a good career path, as far as, like, I installed, like, security systems, alarm systems, like cameras, stuff like that. And then I got more on the back end side of it, as like tech support, with that towards the end of that career, before I started lawn care. So it was, that's what I did for about 10, 15 years, as just like civilian job goes. But I just knew that, like, I had a cap on what I could potentially earn, and where
Right.
I could go with that. So that's kind of why I decided I wanted to own my own business. And that's why I went into lawn care, because I knew that in that industry I was in, it would be really hard to get started on my own. It would take a lot of capital, and take a lot of resources that I just shouldn't have financially to get that kind
Mhm.
of business off the ground. And I, looking at the opportunity with lawn care and with Augusta, particularly, it just with the opportunity that they offer, with just the low entry point with the franchise fee and what, really the low entry point in equipment of what it requires just to get started, really appealed to me. And that's why I chose to do the lawn care route.
Okay, so you knew you wanted to go into business for yourself, and that's what I was going to ask you. But why lawn care if it seems like such a humble business?
Yeah.
So for you, it's like something you could start cheap.
Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, and you say like a humble business, and I think that's true. But I also think like there's definite like reward in the hard work.
Yes. Okay.
And I also know the scalability of lawn care was the other thing that attracted me to it, because I just know that there's just the number of houses there are out there, the number of people that need that service. If all I have to do is just be as good, preferably better than the next company, and I feel like I could do that, and that's so I feel like that I have scalability to grow it to something that that would help me achieve my goals financially.
So how did you discover Mike?
Yeah, so the story for me is when I decided that at the beginning of 2023, so beginning of this year, I was like, man, I really was in a place of like, for one, I was like ready to make a move to leave my job, and to go and to start a lawn care business. Is like, okay, I want to do this. I want to pursue this idea. So I was going to just do it on my own, because I had never heard of Augusta, never heard of Mike. And so I was going to just start my own business from scratch. And so I started doing research like anybody would, got online, hit Google, and got, just kind of started looking at different things. I've had a number of different people out there, obviously, that have YouTube videos, but Mike's are the ones that kind of kept coming back up over and over again. And they're the ones that I think I resonated with the most. Wow, like I really like how, first of all, it started with like systems of like, the idea that there's a command center, there's, the pay for performance, P4P, that Augusta does, that like, but to me, those things really made sense. And the systems they had with all the lawn care media, with the door hangers and the mailers that are like, wow, like that's really cool stuff that I didn't see anybody else offer.
Right.
So the more I investigated, it's like, wow, well, maybe instead of just doing this on my own, I could potentially join Augusta. So that's kind of what led me to at least make that initial phone call.
So it wasn't like you were searching for tips or tricks or how to run your lawn care business. You were planning to do it on your own. And then you happened to come across, were you just looking for like some support to run your business?
Yeah, just looking for like how to get started, ideas, like what do I need? Like, what do I, I'm like, obviously I kind of have an idea of like the equipment and like how to mow the yards and stuff. Like that wasn't really what I was looking for. I was looking for ideas of like how to run the back end, like what systems, like CRMs were out there. Like what are people doing for that? How are people marketing the business? How are they getting customers in the door, essentially? That kind of stuff.
So how many customers did you have, and what CRM were you using?
So I didn't have anything. So I started completely, I did not bring my business over from Augusta. I started with Augusta from the very beginning. So every customer that I had has been from Augusta. So it's all been through. Yeah.
So this is all brand new to you.
Yes.
Just since February, you said.
Yeah. So I joined Augusta in February. So like I said, I had nothing. I started with the money I had in the bank, which it was an interesting thing. Is like it was actually money that my wife and I had set aside. We were looking at buying some land, but that the deal fell through just because the land we wanted to buy, the county actually didn't approve of it to be broken down into lot sizes like the developer wanted. So it kind of just fell through, and I'm like, well, so I'm just going to sit on it for a while, and then when this opportunity came around, I'm like, well, you know what? I think I just want to shift gears and actually just use that money to start this business. So I had no customers. I had an initial call with Lee with Augusta and talked to him, and that was in February of this year. After doing some, no, sorry, I take that back. the call was in January, and I talked to Lee. He's like, well, our next training is in February. And I'm like, okay, well, that's really soon. So like 2 weeks away. And so,
Wow.
yeah. And so I was like, well, if I don't do it in February, like when is the next training? He's like, well, it's going to be in the summer. I'm like, well, okay. So
That's
at first,
sweet.
yeah. So at first I thought, well, maybe I should just wait until summer. It's like maybe a few more months. But then I'm like, but the problem with that is, spring is obviously the best time to get customers. I knew that even not having done lawn care really as my own business, I knew that the spring was going to be the time to capitalize on starting a new business. So like, well, I really want to do it in February, but I'm like, that's really crazy to do it. Is that so? Of course, I talked to my wife about it. It was kind of scary, but I knew it was the right thing to do. Like I knew that's what I wanted to do. Spent a lot of time in prayer about it. And I just felt a good peace that like this is the right decision for me to make. And so I just pulled the trigger, and within 2 weeks I was at the in Bellingham, or actually the training was in Blaine, Washington. So I went to Blaine and we did a week of training and was ready to hit the ground running.
Wow. So yeah, you haven't followed it's not like you followed the content for years and years.
No.
And then when the franchise came along, you're like, oh, awesome. I get to be a part of Augusta. So it's all brand new for you.
Yeah, it's all brand new. Yeah.
So what was that experience like then when you showed up for training? It would have been, was it 4-day training then?
Yeah. So it was 4 days of training. We went Tuesday through Friday. It was like an information overload.
No kidding.
But it was great. I think everybody that is involved in Augusta corporate is awesome. They've been nothing but supportive, and just the way that the thing you can tell and that I appreciate is like that everything that they're teaching is stuff that they've learned from experience.
Mm-hmm.
They're not making it up on the fly. It's not just some theoretical thing that sounds really cool. Like, no, it's all stuff that's been tested in the field, and that they know that works. And so it's just very, even though it's a lot of information, it's most of it really just easy to understand, even for somebody simple like me. I'm not. And so I just appreciated that about the training, and just obviously that not only the information, but also just the support of like just knowing that the confidence that the team instills in you that, hey, you can do this. Like, and we're going to be here for you. You're going to have coaching calls, that you'll have as support once you leave, which were great. That I can, have those coaching calls to lean into, especially those first few weeks getting started when I'm just trying to figure stuff out, getting going.
And did your wife come with you to the training?
No, she did not. So she actually teaches full time. So she was actually right in the middle of her school year teaching. So she wasn't able to make it that, unfortunately.
Yeah. So how did she feel about you coming there, getting the overload? And was she a little bit concerned, or is she just whatever you want to do, I'm with you?
Yeah, I think she was a little concerned. I think the biggest thing was obviously for her, like, me having a full-time job before this, where I was an employee,
Yes.
going into owning my own business, being, self-employed, kind of made me nervous, obviously,
Sure.
Because it's, even though, walking into what I felt was like a very solid system and a proven model, there's nothing guaranteed. So
Right.
obviously you got to go out there and make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was confident that I could, but obviously it's still just a little nerve wracking when you've never done that before. But overall, she was supportive and was just kind of, it was a whirlwind. So a little nervous, but she's been supportive since day one and still is. And I appreciate it for that, and grateful that she, agreed, and we came to the conclusion together that it was going to be a good idea to move forward with Augusta. And
So did you have your other job when you came for training, or did you give a 2-week notice, or how did you end it?
Yeah. So what I did is I did have my other job. I had some vacation. So I went ahead and just put in for a week of vacation once I knew I was coming for training. Actually, I think I just put in vacation before I knew I was coming for training, just so I could make sure I had plenty of time to get approved, because it was so last minute.
Yeah.
So I just like, well, I'm going to put in for vacation. And if for some reason I don't go to training, I'll just not go on vacation. But no, I ended up taking a week of vacation. I came back, worked a few more weeks, and then I gave my notice towards the beginning of March so I would be finishing my job at the middle of March.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so it was kind of crazy because like at first I thought about trying to work 2 jobs, but I guess I really believed Lee Park when he told me like you're gonna get a lot of business because of the systems with Augusta really work, and you'll get more business than you think to start off with. So I believed him. I'm like, all right, man, you say it, I believe it. So, and I'm like, I'm just gonna put my notice in, and we're gonna get busy. And so I did, and then it worked out. The first month of March was pretty slim, but I was still, had those kind of paychecks coming in from my previous job.
Right.
But then by April, I was really doing okay, and it was totally worth leaving my other job and going full time into the business.
So to backtrack just a tad, when you had your call with him, what kind of capital is he telling you that you need to get started? So it's one thing if you bought into a franchise, but then when you have to buy trucks and put decals on and paint them and get your equipment and everything, what did he tell you to expect to have up front?
Yeah, if I remember, and it's been a few minutes now since we had that conversation, but I think he said somewhere anywhere from like 30 to 40,000 would be like the ideal, but could be done even less if you're really just are very tight with your budget, and even potentially 20 to 25 is what, if I remember correctly, if you're really just conscious of your budget and like don't buy the most expensive equipment, maybe just buy like a push mower to get started, buy like one trimmer, that kind of thing. And I was fortunate, like I actually had owned a truck already. So I already had a truck, I already had like a trailer. So I kind of saved some money there already. I just took that truck and had it painted and got it decaled. And then so I just was able to use what I had to buy a little bit of equipment, obviously. And the really big one was the marketing, having some marketing money there to get that initial push to send out some mailers, do some door hangers, do some Facebook and ads and stuff like that.
So do you have a growth model or solo model?
So I'm a solo model.
Okay.
And I'm right now it's just me. So I'm the owner and the employee and HR and everything other than the back office, because we have command center, which is awesome.
So do you use Zuper or Service Autopilot?
So I have Service Autopilot. Yeah.
And how has that been for you?
So it's been pretty good so far. I think it's a pretty robust platform. It's does everything that I need it to do. It's definitely not perfect, but nothing really is in software. So it's been pretty good so far. I think obviously with Augusta and what Mike's vision, he's coming out with his own, or has come out with his own Copilot. So we're excited about what that's going to offer, because I think it's really going to streamline everything for our operations, especially across the CRM once it combines with P4P, and it's really going to be awesome. So I'm looking forward to that once we make that change.
For sure. So you got started then in your first spring season, and how has that been for you? Has it been completely overwhelming, or has it been, a little at a time, or they just trickling in, or has it been a rush of business?
Yeah, so it was, it hasn't been completely overwhelming, but I also think I kind of was intentional about, like, I understood that I didn't want to go too fast because I didn't want to risk burning out, because I knew that was a kind of a warning that was given from like Mike and Lee and everybody, like, hey, like, you don't want to just overwhelm yourself and be to the point where like you just question everything. And so, but when I started out, like, March was a little bit slower, but then by April I was getting several leads coming in, getting a lot of the recurring customers with mowing through April and May. And then now it's through the summer, it started to slow down with recurring customers. So, but yeah, it's been, I think, good. It's been like the appropriate amount. And there's been times I think it's been overwhelming, because I'm like, okay, I've got all these mowing coming in, and like I got projects. And since I'm the only person doing projects, got to make sure, like, as I'm learning how to like balance that schedule and making sure that I allocate enough time to get those mowing jobs done and fit in the projects. And so it's kind of been a learning curve on that, of just making sure that, because then I'll also have to leave time for, all the back end work of, with the QuickBooks and all that other stuff, and setting the schedule and invoicing and all that stuff.
Right. So, can you explain to the listener a little bit the difference between the solo and growth, and why would there be two, and what caused you to get into the solo?
Yeah. So the difference between solo model and growth model. So first of all, is the entry for the franchise fee is less than the solo model. And so currently, obviously this is always subject to change, but like currently, as of me signing up, it was like 7,000 for a solo and 20 for a growth. So that's a big difference, and one of the main reasons why I went with solo, just because it allowed me to get in the door immediately without having to spend a lot more money up front, which helped my budget quite a bit. The other difference is with the solo model, even though like you might define like a service area, like where you're going to work within,
Mm-hmm.
you don't get a actual defined and protected territory.
Got
Whereas
it.
the growth model, you do get that protected territory. So that way, if there's other franchises that decide to open up near your business or near your territory, they are not allowed to solicit business and do business inside your territory. So I don't have that until I decide to grow, upgrade into that growth model. And then the third thing would be the support from command center. So with the solo model, you get kind of their basic services like phone calls, the chat response from the website, and estimates. And with growth model, you get the full service, which goes into like even QuickBooks, payroll, P4P, like all these other things that they'll do for you on the back end
Mhm.
for your if you so choose. You don't even have to do all those, but as a growth model, you do have those options. With solo, you don't have all the full options.
So, from their point of view, why would Augusta offer a solo model, do you think?
I think I think the very reason they offer it is the reason that I chose to go with it, is the fact that like they identify somebody that they feel like would be a great fit for the Augusta brand and Augusta organization, but maybe like I myself didn't have just quite enough money to feel comfortable starting off with that $20,000 franchise fee. It just gives them an opportunity to get in the door. So then that way they can then grow into that growth model. So I think it's just a great entry point. Um, and I think that's why they do that, just allow people to get in the door and make it happen from there.
Yeah, so that's a really good idea. So even if you had 20, 25, 30,000, and you come in as a solo model, it gives you the money to do the
Yeah,
other things, the marketing, and get ready
yeah,
to go. So it's a
exactly. Yeah,
conservative way.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Otherwise, you would be paying your 20 plus needing to have more than that, probably needing to have 60 or $80,000 to get in the door.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the thing is like if you yeah, you're definitely freeing up that capital to run the business initially, and especially with a growth model, you're going to be looking to probably hire employees faster than a solo model. So you're going to need more capital for that as well. Probably in addition to all the equipment you're buying. So yeah.
So when you come on as a solo and you think of having an employee, so how did they really teach you what the goal would be? So
As-
like, yeah, like do they say you want to grow quickly up to this amount, you want to get one employee, or do they just leave it up to you if you just want to go slow and steady and stay by yourself, or if you're looking to grow with employees soon?
yeah. So what I mean, essentially, so they do have a implementation of where once you sign up, you're on a 2-year clock. So want to switch to the growth model, or if you hit 20,000 in revenue, monthly revenue, then you will be switched over to the growth model. So I think the idea is there's not like a specified like, hey, this is when you need to start hiring employees. But I would say the recommendation would be um, once you are, it really kind of depends on your budgeted hours in a week. So like once you get to about where you can fill somebody's schedule of 30 budgeted hours in a week, that's probably when you're ready to hire an employee, because that's the full-time job. And then you're going to have to go out as the owner slash GM and go market and spend more time marketing, doing estimates, and also still working in the field. And then that way you're just, and that could be around the if I remember correctly, anywhere from like the 15 to 20,000, and which is why they have that 20,000 as a growth model, I think, in revenue. So typically, but
Got it. So do you have the mentality of, I don't know if you've heard this before, considering yourself like an army of one, meaning you're going to pretend that you are running full systems, full growth, and then the way you document everything and handle everything that you do every day, do you do it as if you had an employee? Do you do estimate videos? Do you
yeah.
follow the systems that carefully, or do you feel like you don't really need to?
No, I definitely do. Like literally the only thing that I don't do right now, just because I'm by myself, is P for P, because I just haven't needed that yet.
Right.
But other than that, yeah, I do all the estimates, according to the model and how it was taught. I do videos, which even if I for myself are helpful.
Yeah,
To
for
have those
sure.
videos to go back in reference. But yeah, I do the videos, everything that I try to follow those systems as close as I possibly can, because I do have that mentality that at some point I will be hiring somebody, and I just want to have that practice, that kind of that motor memory down, have those skills already developed as a
Yeah.
habit, and instead of trying to change things once I hire somebody, and can just be completely, almost not necessarily starting over again, but in a way it almost be like starting from scratch again, because if I haven't been following those systems up to that point, then I'm gonna have to relearn things, and I'd rather just do it right correctly the first time. And
Yeah.
so yeah, absolutely, I definitely do my best to follow all those things as closely as I can.
So if you're by yourself and you're talking about budgeted hours and 30 budgeted hours a week for one person, how much time do you allow to do estimates?
So right now I give myself, so I kind of I blocked off about 4 hours on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, just as time to do estimates, for scheduled estimates. Um, and so and that's been good for me so far. And with the amount of customers and hours I have right now, it works pretty well. And the nice thing is with the territory I'm at right now, it's a smaller town, and so I can usually, if I'm out working on a job, it's pretty easy for me just to bounce over to an estimate right before or after a job, knock that out. Especially because a lot of our estimates we do, are drive-by estimates, so we don't have to have the customer home necessarily, and so I can just run over there after a job and knock it out pretty quick.
Nice. That's awesome. So your goals, your big goals, it's just recently that we had implemented that there has to be some kind of goal to get to growth. Was that always your plan to grow it to be able to have a growth model?
Absolutely. For me, obviously starting a business, like I want it to be a business, that can run on systems. So I want to get to the point where I do have, a location that this location has a general manager, that can run essentially without me. Like, should I get, that whole proverbial ran over by a bus, kind of
Yes,
thing. Um,
exactly.
that it'll still run without me overall. And so yeah, so I want to get to a point where, I can even potentially open a second location. That's my goal. Obviously, that's down the road, but it's something that I always still, even though it's years down the road and nothing that is going to happen immediately, I always keep that, just in my mind a little bit. I
Yeah,
just
for sure.
remind myself of that from time to time. That that's what I'm working towards, so that way I can, have something that if I want to, and if my two boys I was telling you about earlier, when they grow
Yes.
up, if that's something that they want to then be able to take over and have a business, I would love for that. That would be awesome. That's really what my whole, just beyond the money and the finances, is really what I want to accomplish, is being able to hand something over to them should they want to, so that way they can, be financially free, and but also have something that they can take and grow, um, and and run for themselves.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, looking forward now, you just met with us in Memphis, so you came and were a part of that. So, what does Augusta offer to kind of keep you motivated? Are there other groups, or is there a lot of communication amongst the people in Augusta Nation? How do you get support?
Yeah. So for support, so the basis, we have a few different things. So we have Facebook groups, where people hop on, and obviously they'll post questions. And usually there's, maybe not every question applies to you, but at some point there's somebody's going to ask a question that applies to you, so you're going to learn something. It also just gives you an opportunity to see the people who's on there, and just to get to know people a little bit better through that. And then also people are posting just kind of those motivational, like, videos where maybe they had a bad day, or a bad month, and they're vulnerable enough to get on there and share kind of what their struggles are, which is super helpful, because I just think, obviously it just reminds us that we're not in this alone. We have a team and a group of people that are in the same position that we are, and it's just nice to know that the people that you're working around are real. They have real struggles. So not everybody's just some like super rock star that never struggles, that everything goes right for them. It's like, that's just, we just keep it real. And obviously the other support we have, you mentioned like the Memphis meetup we had. I think that's great because obviously, you can do a lot online, but there's nothing like meeting up with people in person and just having those great conversations, hearing those stories. And I think for me, it was really cool just to see, like, hey, talk to other franchise owners who have been in it for a little while, to see where they started and to see where they're at now. And that in spite of maybe some of those struggles they did have, they've grown a really great business. Maybe they've started a second location and are walking through that. But they didn't start there. They started with one location.
Exactly.
Just by themselves, maybe one employee. And it's just also awesome because then those same people are very supportive of me just getting started. They don't look down on me like just because I'm just this one guy out here mowing grass. No, they're like, hey man, like you can do this. Like, and so it's really cool to have that community right there.
How many customers do you currently have?
So right now I'm at like 22, 23 recurring customers. Then obviously I have several projects that I fill in with that. Supplement those recurring customers with.
Do you focus on simple services, just cleanups and installs, or you do any kind of walls or patios or anything?
Yeah, so definitely just for me, I'm focusing on the simple services right now, mainly because for one, that's definitely the anything like hardscaping is not within my wheelhouse. So I didn't want to try to get into something where I didn't feel comfortable, where I could do quality work, and also it's just a lot quicker and easier for me to sell those jobs, and it takes less equipment for doing so. I do cleanups. I will do like mulch installs because that's pretty straightforward. And then obviously like the mowing services as well.
Fantastic. So you feel supported by the community. So do you feel like you would be where you are today if you didn't have Augusta? Do you feel like it's bought you some time to get you down the road a little quicker?
Yeah, absolutely. I think had I done it on my excuse me, had I done it on my own, I don't think I would have. Yeah, I wouldn't have. First of all, obviously, with having a brand behind you, there's already recognition in the community. People recognize my truck now. I had a guy. I walked into a gas station one day. I was the Quiznos inside the gas station. I was getting some Quiznos. This guy's like, "Oh yeah, you're with Augusta, right?" And I was not even wearing anything Augusta. I was like,
"No way."
Oh yeah, but he had just seen me like in the neighborhood, and he recognized me from driving the truck and everything like that. And I'm like, "Yeah, man." And so I just had a short conversation, and just so I would, which is a huge leg up to have that to get starting a business, which I would definitely not have had I done it on my own. Yeah, and I think just then obviously the online presence that having a great website gets me great rankings on Google, and all those things that come with that give me an advantage that I definitely would not have had I done it on my own. So which obviously gives me more leads, which turns into more customers, and yeah, so it definitely has a huge advantage.
Does Augusta do your social media for you, or do you need to put out things on Facebook, Instagram? How does that work?
Yeah, so I do my own social media. They do offer some social media. If I remember correctly, maybe only for the growth model, but I just do my own right now. So I'll just do like photos of jobs and short
Nice.
videos and stuff, and just I tie my Facebook, Instagram together, and I just do it all from that the Meta website, and yeah, so I take care of that for myself right now.
So that's why they recognized your face.
Probably, yeah, and that, and and I'm in the neighborhood mowing yards and stuff, so yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's great. So one advantage you have of being by yourself is when the owner is the one doing the work, there's very few callbacks.
Yeah,
You're
that
seeking to do a high standard.
yeah, for sure. I haven't had any yet, thankfully. But I obviously, that's just one of the things that I've kind of recognized that I'm working my best to establish that standard with myself. Then as I hire employees, I want to transfer that standard over to them. But I know that's with employees, they're no matter how well you train them, and no matter how awesome of a worker they are, they're never going to have the same mentality as you, the owner. It's just not,
Exactly.
and that's okay. I wouldn't expect them to.
That's why they're employees.
Yeah, that's why they're employees, and that's totally fine. So I understand that quality probably will dip a little bit, but that's why we have systems in place to help handle that. With such as like yellow slips, using the P for P, so that way, hey, like you're incentivized to be super efficient, but also to do a good job. Because if you're not doing a good job, you're going to get yellow slip, you're going to get callbacks, and you're going to lose that bonus money that you just earned the day before because you have to go back and fix that mistake.
Yeah, so all the exposure you have right now is positive because you don't have any callbacks. There's not things that have been broken that you don't know about, and then you get
Right,
calls about. And
right.
so all the brand awareness that you have in your area is positive. So the word of mouth is going to be tremendous also.
Yeah, it is. And the other thing about the word of mouth, what's really cool is like, so Ozark is not a huge community. Like it's about like 16,000 people. And I serve Ozark, and then I serve a neighboring town of Nixa as well. But living in Ozark, my kids go to school here. We go to church. We have lots of friends. So people already know who I am, like as just me. And then
Yeah.
now there's that business associated with it. So yeah, it's just definitely picks up steam from just having friends and family and all that. So yeah.
You're the first solo, I believe, that I've had on for an interview. And I know there's a lot of people in the YouTube community that have been interested because with the growth model, you have the guy that's wanting to start his own thing or is doing his own thing and struggling a little bit.
Yeah.
It kind of gives them a little bit of hope to think that there might be a chance that they could be part of it if they don't have very much money.
Yeah.
So hearing your experience is really valuable to them. So do you want to give any kind of encouragement or support to them if this is the only way they can get in? Is it a way that they should, or should they wait till they can afford the growth?
I think it depends on like where you're at and what your thought process is, what your goals are. Because I will say that I think having the growth model is definitely better. I will say that, and I wish I was there already because you can definitely see the benefits of the growth model over the solo. And if I could maybe like do it again, if I had that money, I would definitely just start growth model right away. But with that being said, if you're like me and you're ready to pull the trigger, and like now is the way that, hey, like financially it just makes the most sense, then yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's a great way to get your foot in the door and get started. So it's a great avenue to do that. But if maybe you feel like you can wait, and maybe your goals allow you to wait a little bit to do the growth model, that might be the best decision too, because it definitely comes with a lot more benefits.
Yeah, that's a very smart and balanced answer, because if I put myself in the same place too, I would think maybe I should wait. And you would hope that there was a lot more benefits in being growth. Otherwise, why would you spend all that money if you could have all those benefits as solo? With commands here, if you're planning to grow really fast and really put the pedal to the metal, and you're not quite ready yet, then it would be worth it to wait until you could do growth.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what you get with command center with the growth over solo it's huge. And I would definitely say if you're wanting to grow fast, like you said, it would definitely be beneficial to just to wait it out a little bit, if you can, and maybe you feel like you can't. I don't know, but I would definitely say, like, if you have the ability to go growth over solo, I would definitely say do it. But if it's just where you just feel like the only way you're going to make it happen is with the solo, then yeah, don't wait, just go. So yeah.
Yeah. Augusta is very, I would say, picky or selective in who they let into Augusta Nation. And I know that there's a lot of phone calls that happen with Lee, and he pretty much says no, or he doesn't even give any indication that they could move forward. So, what is it about you, do you think, that he thought it was okay to go with you, especially when you haven't listened to the content very long at all?
I don't know. Maybe I have no idea. That's a great question. Lee, what were you thinking, man? I don't know.
Now that you're in Augusta Nation, do you feel like there is so many similarities between you and others you've met?
No, I think so. No, I think perhaps, if I was answering for Lee, perhaps I think ultimately my values and vision align with Augusta. I believe, in that that I care deeply about my family, and my goals are oriented around them and my community as well. Building a business that it's going to be a bright spot in the community, that's going to offer great jobs. So, and those are things that I expressed to Lee when I talked to him, and I feel like that's really a theme that's throughout all of Augusta. As you talk to people and get to know other owners, and get to know the staff at command center, and everybody over there is like, we just all have a very similar way of looking at life, similar value set. Not that everybody's the same by any means. We're not all robots. We all have different personalities. We're all unique in various ways. But I think overall, at the core, we just have those same core values that drive us to do what we do.
Do you have anybody in particular, or a couple people that you've kind of really connected with that you stay in contact with?
There's a few people, obviously, from like the training group that we talk a little bit, Facebook and stuff like that. Overall, like, I haven't talked to a lot of people just like one-on-one, outside of that, just mostly because I know we're all busy in spring rush. But they are trying to think, like, there's a few solo models that I've talked to, just because they're in the same boat I'm in. And I know I've talked to Cody Ann, because she was starting hers up in Canada, and so she's a solo model as well. And so just kind of like we were in that same boat, going to the same training class. I met some people at Memphis that I've talked to. Talked to Kyle Tarvin, because he's pretty close to me in Oklahoma, and I just was, there was one day like, hey man, like, I'm really close by. Like, if you ever need anything, just like let me know, because I'm like one of the closer franchises to where he's at. I talked to Ben and Chelsea Collins up in St. Louis area, because they're really close to me as well. And just, we were actually talking about just some different things with, they're just trying to find, like, potentially even having them like bring trucks down to have them painted where I'm at, because it's so much cheaper, and a couple hours drive. So just stuff like that. So yeah, just making some connections with people, and yeah.
Well, the awesome part about that is if you ever got stuck or had an illness in the family or something that you were not able to do everything. We've had franchisees that were close, 6 hours away, 5 hours away, and they could send somebody over and just help. That person already knows the systems. They're wearing the same uniform, and they could jump in and no one would know the difference that they weren't a part of your company.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not often that you have a platform to just talk to others, small business owners. Is there anything that you would want to say as a person, as with your family? I know it's not easy. I'm sure you've had low moments, but in general, as a business owner or as a part of Augusta Nation, do you have anything you'd want to share that would encourage other people?
Yeah. So I know like there were some questions that you kind of have helped prepare me for this, and one was like I don't know. Hopefully I'm not jumping the gun on this, but you had like a quote, right? And so I just wanted to share what I wrote down for the quote that you had asked for, and it kind of goes along with really how I got in here because it's from General Patton, and it says a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan next week.
Oh,
And
that's good.
yeah, and so for me and obviously that context, he's as a military general, a leader. So you might replace like violently with like, you know, passionately or whatever other word you want to put in there. But I think for me, like the reason why I chose that quote and is because at the end of the day, what he's trying to say is like you just need to take action, right? Just make a decision, and you can't wait for like a perfect moment or a perfect plan, because then that moment might pass you by, or you might be a little bit too late. Like for me that was like, hey, I was deciding whether or not I was going to join Augusta. Is like, well, I could do it now, and
Mhm.
it's scary because yeah, it's like I'm coming to training in 2 weeks, or I could wait. Like, but I'm like, well, I'm just gonna make a decision, and I'm just gonna live with that. Um, and I think to me that as business owners, I think you just have to be not afraid to make decisions. No matter what obviously you have to take a little bit of time to consider consequences and weigh things out. But at the end of the day, like you're better off just acting and making and moving your business forward. And I think you could apply that to your personal life, family, friends, whatever in life, you could take that mentality and just say like, hey, like I've got to make some sort of movement, positive movement in this direction. And now it could be the wrong decision, but now I know, okay, I'm not going to do that again. You learn from that, and then you adjust course, and then make the next decision. Okay, the next one was, hey, that worked out, great, cool. Now I'm gonna make the next one, instead of just trying to wait and hope that maybe I might come up with the right perfect plan in a week or 2 weeks from now. It may not, it may be too late. You never know.
True. That's good. So, how do you keep yourself motivated and encouraged? Do you listen to stuff while you work, or is it family, community, faith? What do you listen to?
Yeah. So I don't listen to a lot while I'm working. Mostly because I like to be focused on the work. That's just me. At least right now, that could change. Um, but when I'm not, I listen to really like just a lot of just faith-based music because I'm a man of faith, and that's what motivates me a lot. I like to listen to biblical podcasts. One of my favorites is the Bible Project. Even though that really has nothing to do with business, it just keeps me grounded in my faith.
Mhm.
And I think from there, everything else flows out of that for me. And then obviously, there's some YouTube content. Like I still listen to Mike's videos because he's always putting out good stuff. I'll watch other YouTube videos of other people in the lawn care and landscaping business just to see what they have to say. Just so I'm hearing hearing some other voices and getting a more well-rounded idea of what's going on in that community, just to give me an idea of how to improve my business um, and how to be better at what I do.
Our goal is to change the professionalism in the landscape industry. So to us, there's really no competition per se. And we feel like all the content that you just mentioned of lawn care,
Yeah,
anything that makes us better, anything that makes us reach out to others. If you feel like there's no competition and you're the ones leading the way and showing people how to be professional, then by all means, I really feel like as much as you can learn, the better.
yeah, absolutely. I think it's one of those things. Like even in my short time of owning this business, I've had other people reach out, like either on social media or just in passing, like in the community of like other lawn care business people. And like, I don't feel threatened by that. I'm like, hey, like we're all here together. We're all trying to, succeed in our business, and I'm going to be friendly to you. And, if, as long as you want to be friendly with me and have a conversation, we'll talk. And that's great. I love it.
That's fantastic. So we are looking forward to the summit in October. I hope you can be there.
Yeah, I'm planning on making that drive over. It should be awesome. I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to.
So did you even know about Augusta in January when we had our summit?
No.
It was after that you had your first call with Lee.
Yeah, it was after that, and it was I ended up watching. I think you guys. I think they put up some of the videos the the summit on YouTube.
Yeah, I think we had some shorts, and then they did some little sections of what Mike had talked about.
Yeah, there was some, and yeah, there was like one where and that was actually one of the ones that actually helped, like, kind of pushed me over to make that final decision because he talked about, and I wrote it down. It was oh, sorry, I'm thinking my notes here. I saw, what was it? Oh, the 2023 will be recession will expose bad leadership was the name of the video, and he did that speech and all about like leadership, and that really is like what solidified, like, hey man, like I really am on board with what Augusta's doing, and what their vision, and just the values that they have. Like that's what I want to be a part of that, and that's what really helped me make that final decision.
Yeah, there was a lot of passion in that one, wasn't there?
Yeah, there absolutely was, and a lot of passion, and just a lot of just like, I don't know, just a sense that like it's it goes well beyond just the technical, how to mow grass, how to clean up a property like that, how to do your P&L. Like it's not none of that stuff. Like that's not what. Although those are the day-to-day things that we run our business, but that's not what is grounded in. It's not the really important stuff. It's how you are as a leader with your employees, how you run, how you interact with your team, how you are as a family member, as a husband, a father, those kind of things are what are going to make and break you as a business owner. And that's really what stood out to me.
Yeah, that's good. So I look forward to seeing you there. I knew I hadn't known you long, and right away from the beginning there was a connection. It was great having you at training. It's
Yeah.
great to see you in Memphis, and so I really appreciate you taking the time today to explain, especially about the solo model for people that might be interested in that.
Yeah.
And please tell your family thank you. I know it's Sunday and it's a family day, so
Yeah.
we appreciate your time.
Yeah, and absolutely. It was my pleasure to do this. I appreciate you asking me on here, and hopefully people are encouraged and have take away something that will help them out.
Oh, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, thank you for your time, and you have a wonderful day.
All right. Thank you, Liz. Appreciate it.